do with the UCC is we have our own vetting and endorsement policy for candidates that come before us. So we'll have Craig back at another time to do a regular vetting and an endorsement vote. All right, now we've all been waiting for him. I appreciate your patience and letting us get through some of this other stuff. Without any further ado, I want to introduce Saratoga County Sheriff, Mr. James Bowen.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate the offer to come here tonight. Tom called me up and said, how do you feel about this new legislation with the SAFE Act? And I explained to him over the phone exactly how I felt, and he said, would you come to our meeting and make the same remarks? And I said I would be more than happy to come here. And that's what I'm here about. I was born and raised in this county. I've been with your Sheriff's Department for 48 years. I'm on my 41st year as Sheriff of Saratoga County. And I owe that to the people of this county. I am a Republican. I do run on the Republican ticket. I do run on the conservative ticket. And I've had some oppositions all the way around, both from in my department, outside the department. But the people of the county have always stuck with me. And I told them in 1972, like I tell all you people, that if I was elected sheriff, I'd give you a police department that you want and deserve. And that's what I've tried to do all these years. I listen to the people. I try to do what you want. I run your department. I try to build it to make sure your department works for you. Now, to get where we are today, one time called me up and said, how do you feel about this new gun law? 2 weeks ago, I was in Albany to the Sheriff's Association, the New York State Sheriff's Association, and we have 3 lawyers down there at the Sheriff's Association. We spent over 2 days going over this legislation, and every time you sit down with lawyers, you get 3 different opinions. But we were finally organized. There was 52 sheriffs out of 58 right there. We went up and down and back and forth and discussed a lot of the paragraphs and parts of the law that were there. And we finally put together a letter. That's why I brought it up. When I asked Tom, he said there'd probably be 50 or 100 people. I made 100 copies. There's not enough for everybody, but look it all over. I also gave you the printout of what the assault weapons are as it spells out in that bill. And when you look at all those weapons that are on that sheet of paper, it really makes you sick. I was born and raised here. I went into the service. I was in the Army, spent a little time with the infantry. I did a little walking and all. I see my good friend Jimmy Smith, 92-year-old Jimmy Smith sitting out here. My friend, a long time, right here, Marine man. We go back a long ways, and I firmly believe. But what I really want to say is, and what I told Tom, I've got grandchildren. I've got a 2-year-old great-granddaughter. What happened in Connecticut was not because of anything illegal. Those weapons were legally bought, legally owned, maintained. The mother that bought those weapons had a son that had some mental problems. She even took him to the range, showed him how to operate the weapons so he could clearly understand it. Then he turned the weapon on her and all those innocent kids. And everybody gets a little in your throat when you think of little kids being shot up. But those weapons were not illegal. Those were legal weapons. We had another episode with the first responders that got shot. The gentleman that shot him, if you want to call him a gentleman, and I have to use that terminology here in front of everybody, he just got out of prison from killing his grandmother. He was not eligible to buy any weapons, so he went with his next door neighbor down to a gun shop, bought the weapons legally, bought the ammunition legally. She took it out, put it in the car, drove him home, and then he set his house on fire and shot our 2 first responders. All that was done legally, but you have one person that should have been looked at for conspiracy to commit murder, in my opinion. And it really upsets me and a lot of other people, not only in this room, but across our whole state and our country. We have a right to bear arms. We have a right, and we have rules and regulations, and we have law. But this law was not passed legally, right, and proper. I have over the 41 years of trying to get legislation passed through the Sheriff's Association with our state legislature. We never got any bill passed in one day. Never. We've had a lot of important legislation that needs to be done. And legislators do not listen to the people that they represent. They shouldn't be. And all I'm saying to people is, make your voice known, let your feelings out there, and go. Now, when I look at this law, I gave you a letter from the Sheriff's Association. There's a few things that they can get away with. There's a few things that we're opposed to. And yes, FOIL law, you can't release the names for the next 120 days. They're barred from releasing your name if you've got a pistol. After that, 120 days, then you have to file a questionnaire with your local county clerk and ask them not to release your name. That's not fair and right. It's an infringe. It's a violation of the safety for every pistol permit legal person in this county. It infringes on it. It tells you where you live, how many weapons you have. It's not fair and it's not right. And under the Freedom of Information, you do not have to give out that. But unfortunately, some counties gave it out. So you look at that, that's small potatoes. It has nothing to do with the lives that were lost. Nothing. Look at some of the NIC checks. Okay, NIC checks are fine. There's not a real problem with a NIC check. What it is an inconvenience. You got to go down and see Dave Petronis and have Dave run it and give it back a form to bring it all up. If you want to transfer your weapon to your son or your daughter or something, it's okay. But if you want to sell it to your next door neighbor, you can't without the NIC. That's small potatoes for what it is. Everybody that goes to get it, Dave will tell you, or any other gun dealer, the legal people are there. They go by the law. All this law did was upset and make possibly more violators of the law. The 7-clip ammunition, 10 round, they knocked it down to 7. Never seen anything so asinine, excuse my friends. And now they tell you got to get rid of it. If you don't get rid of it, you don't sell it. All you got to do is only carry 7 rounds. You make a mistake when you get ready to go to the range and you put 8 rounds into it, you run across one of our fellows, you can get arrested, now you're a criminal. Where was the logic from bringing it from 10 down to 7? And then the President of the United States comes out and he wants to make it all 10 rounds. It's very upsetting. It's upsetting to had some other problems at the sheriff's meeting. We had the superintendent of the state police come in. The superintendent, under this new law, everything is the state police. They're going to have you renew your pistol permit every 5 years. That's what you've got to answer. Every 5 years, you've got to renew your pistol permit. They're going to send a form out, ask you. They haven't got it all down yet. They're putting it all together. They're going to put stuff together and put it squared away so that you have to renew your pistol permit every 5 years. In Saratoga County, our sheriff's office, we handle all the pistol permits. We do all the backgrounds. We do all the stuff that goes with it. We've been upgrading the computers since computers came in years ago, trying to take people on. Where does that really help anything or go with it? In Saratoga County, it issues to revoke or suspend it. And if you get arrested, the arrest report comes in, we notify the judge suspends your license, brings you in, gives you a hearing. He has the authority to reinstate your license or to revoke it. I mean, we're just circumventing the wheel. We're spending $38 million the governor is putting into the state police budget to put this computer in so they can compile all this information. And what are they going to do with it after they got it? We ask, are we going to share it with the locals? Nobody knows. We're all knows. $38 million with all the budget and all the financial problems we got today. We got to spend $38 million there. I said to the superintendent when I'm there, I've tried to work closely with all of our police agencies in this county, but $62 million the Thruway Authority gives the New York State Police to police the Thruway. The governor said, you've got a tough problem out there, so forgive you on the $62 million. But we're still going to patrol the thruway like we have in the past. Where's that $62 million coming from? There's $90 million, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a politician that does with the budget. I'm a police officer. I spent my whole life that way. But I look at everything that comes up, my family and all the rest of it, and I try to make things work. I don't want to ramble on, but I just want you to know that the Sheriff's Association is opposed to a lot of this. We're all looking at it. Nobody's got any answers. The state police, I talked to the superintendent down there. He's trying to reshuffle his personnel. They've got to add more troopers into the pistol permit bureau to get this evidence together. They've got to buy the computers. They've got to buy the servers. It's going to take time to go with it. I just don't see where this is helping anybody or protecting any lives. My wife is home. I live over here in the town of Saratoga, on the back of Saratoga Lake, 780 feet in off the road. I have a pistol permit. My wife has a pistol permit. I showed her how to operate those weapons, and I told her don't be afraid to use it. And that's what we have to do. And we have to protect our wives, our daughters, our grandchildren. That's what it's about.
Hear, hear.
But Dave Petronis is setting over. I've known Dave Petronis a long time. He's run one hell of a good gun show. Excuse my thank you. But you have, David, and we've talked before in the past. You've invited me to come there and hand out pistols. You and your wife do.
I would still like you to do that.
I'm going to take you up on that. But the whole thing of it is, there's nothing wrong with gun shows. And when you have people like Dave, who I happen to know personally, running the shows, and you know other people, that's what this country is all about, and that's what we fight for. I don't want to ramble and go any further, but I want you to know that that's where I stand. I'm a little upset. Probably some of you can pick up onto it. I'm a little upset, but I'm not bashful. And my point of view here is, I came here tonight not knowing how big this group is, but boy, am I proud to see the many people that are here tonight. And I'm glad.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but it would be nice if the sheriffs would sign on as plaintiffs in this lawsuit, asking the court to strike this law down as a violation of the three-day rule unless the governor can justify the emergency.
You can justify the emergency. I'll His remark was they were going to make a run on the gun dealers, on Dave and the rest of them, and that didn't work. I'm sorry. Well, you go ahead, Mel.
He did it for political expediency. He wanted to beat the president. The Biden commission were going to come out on Wednesday, so he had to sign his on Tuesday.
He's got political ambitions, and he didn't listen to the people that he supposed to be representing. I'm sorry.
Other sheriffs are refusing to go with the law, the new laws, all right, because they took an oath, all right, to support the Constitution of the United States. Of course, you did too. Do you still reinforce this law, or do you refuse to do it?
I'm not doing anything that I don't have to do, ma'am. The point of the law says it's up to the state police to get all the information and renew the licenses. And I don't think that they should be doing that. That should be reverted back to the county. I don't understand, and I asked the state police superintendent on how they're going to do this. If you do not renew your license within 5 years, your license is suspended. Who's going to go get the weapons and how you're going to pick it up? Right now, the judge signs the suspension orders and goes out. He couldn't answer the question. Where are they going to hold all those weapons when they go to pick them all up? You're going to have to create an arsenal. You've got to have additional people. I would have to hire more people to do all that work. There's nothing. I lost 2 road deputy sheriffs and a civil clerk out of my department now because we can't afford it. And that's what they've done to us. So it's not going to be easy. I don't know how they're going to do it. And I'm sitting back, and every time I've asked for some answers, I don't get it. Nobody knows. And there's a colonel and a sergeant and somebody from the Department of Criminal Justice Services that are going around in media groups trying to explain it. And they still don't have the answers. So sir.
Yes, two-part question. First, I want to thank you very much for your opinion. We do appreciate it to know that, you side with the pro-2A people.
I no disrespect when I say this, I don't side with anybody. I tell you the way that I feel and the way that it is. And I'm Jim Bowen, but I'm also the sheriff of the county, and both things, I hold both titles at the present time. And when Tom called me and asked me what I thought, I've never been bashful in all my career to tell you how I think the law stands. And that's why I'm here, so go ahead with your second.
I've heard that Governor Cuomo is threatening the sheriffs with withholding grant money if they come out against New York State. That's question number one. Has that happened to your department?
Not to me, not that I'm aware of yet.
The second thing is there's a constitutional principle called interposition. And what that basically means is that a law is not a law if the police won't enforce it. Right? If a jury won't convict and if a judge won't hand down a sentence. So what I'm here to ask you is if you get confronted with a case, an NY Safe case, will your department enforce New York State?
I'm going to be very honest and tell you, until I am sure that this law is a law, I'm being very careful how I operate. Right now, you got 60 and 90 days, and you got a year where everything is all going. I'm not so sure all this is going to stay in effect where everything is today, and everybody is jumping and moving and pushing around out there. I'm not so sure that this is going to hold. And if you listen to this man right here talking about your lawsuits and stuff, it can go. If you wait for the United States Constitution, you'll wait a long time. It takes a long time to get it there. We have to get back to your legislation to get it going. I'm watching this law very closely. I'm trying to stay on top of it, and I really don't know where it's going. I really don't. Jim?
Yeah, New York State City PDH made a statement when this ridiculous law came into effect, which made every police agency and every officer actually breaking the law. The statement was plain and simple. Our guys, our officers, need more than 7 rounds in our guns to fight the bad guys. And I agree with that. So why can't a civilian go round for round with a crook? Because he's not going to have 7 rounds in his gun. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Thank you very much.
I have no problem. Everything that's out on the street, everybody that's in this room, and everybody that's got a pistol permit, and everybody that's going to go down and see Dave for Tranche or any other gun deal, get the NICS check, is a legal, law-abiding citizen. And it's going to cost more time and an extra $10. The criminals have all got it, and they're not going to cut back to 7. Our officers, you brought the subject up, yes. There's 10 rounds in the clip and 1 in the chamber. That makes 11. So we're all in the shady area. I'm not allowing the deputies to go out there with 7 rounds in the clip.
All right.
That's right.
Sheriff, this kind of goes to a little bit of what you were discussing with that lady earlier, but setting aside the constitutionality and the legality of this law, do you think with the resources and manpower that the state has that they can actually enforce this law?
No, I don't see how they're going to do it. There is over between 16 and 17,000 permits just in Saratoga County alone. Yeah. And I don't know how they're all going to do that. And that's what I look at it and see where they're trying to get the personnel. In that law, they're talking about putting some of the school resource officers back in. And I don't have a quarrel with that, but I think we have to look at everything that goes with it. They're pushing it to the state police to go into all the school districts and talk to the superintendents and all the buildings and come up with cameras and stuff. The sheriffs across the state of New York, and so should all the local police departments be involved into that. It makes no difference to me who pulls my wife and grandkids out of that car as long as they get them out. And when you get to narrowing it down to just them doing, I can't see how they're going to do all. That's where that $38 million is going. There are a lot of retired police officers, state, city, town, villages, that can either work for the schools or they can come into as part-time reserve officers, covered as what they used to have years ago when I first came in, special deputies, and they could be covered under the liability of the county. They would have their training and stuff, and they could go through it. Right now, we're meeting, we met with South Glens Falls last week, we're meeting with Shenandoah this coming week, and we're sitting down and going over all the plans, and we're trying to get everybody involved with it. to protect all of our kids. And the whole thing is cooperation and working together. And that's what we're trying to push through to it. I don't know where the legislators and where the governor got the idea that the state police can handle it all. And it just doesn't make sense. We'll put it in the bill.
Well, then, I just want to make one little statement, and I'll sit down, and that is that I'm all for what Mr. Schultz is doing and what everybody else is doing to try and, get this law nullified. But if unfortunately their efforts aren't successful, people need to understand that this law is not enforceable, and it could be put to rest through simple acts of civil disobedience. You just don't obey the law.
You will not comply.
For us, civil disobedience.
Yeah, just a real quick question. I mean, the last time I looked, it was like Article 17, which talks about the authorities of the sheriff. You still do have the authority to appoint emergency special deputies.
That's correct.
And you can even deputize under, I think, 654 section, which is, so what I'm asking is that if they amend this bill and you disagree with the bill itself, but let's say they amend it to allow, so that it doesn't apply to law enforcement officers and retired law enforcement officers, would you be open to deputizing law-abiding citizens as emergency special deputies just so that they could gain our respect?
It's pretty sad it has to come to that.
You have brought up a real good point. But the other side of the coin, and every time, no matter what coin you have, quarter, half a dollar, silver dollar, there's two sides to a coin. The problem comes back to liability. Since I have been sheriff, I've been in federal court 7 times. I've been brought down, and it's not easy and it's not pleasant to be there. The county, that's why I said about part-time special deputies, I can't hire without the permission of the county board of supervisors. And they have a scale for what they pay. But when you're looking at putting resource officers back into school, and you look to add that to the schools to pay for it, your school taxes go up. What I'm saying is to take a look at all your local, your villages, your towns, your city PDs. They have retired people just like I do, and the state troopers, they all do. You could put them on, you don't have to pay all of their fringe benefits and all the rest of it. You still have to have the professional liability insurance to go with. I have no quarrels, and I will do whatever I think is necessary to protect our people of this county and to protect our kids.
I want to just make one more comment on it, because I appreciate that greatly, and I can understand the liability side of things, and so, it was sort of a fun thing there. But the politicians are all at the trough trying to feed themselves off of an emergency and trying to jam legislation down our throats. And it reminds me of, it's almost like we're living Animal Farm as a society. The pigs at the trough, and then some pigs are more equal than others. When are our rights going to not be violated anymore? I'm fed up.
When they're gone.
Yeah, got it.
That's why you have to,
When they're vacant.
this gentleman has brought it up, I'm taking it to you, you have to stand up. Everyone runs for office, every politician, regardless of what office, the governor, the senators, the assembly, the sheriffs, the town constable, the county clerks, whatever they all are, they run for office and they can't get in there without the vote. And you go out and you go around with it. One thing I want to make very clear when I'm standing, I'm not here tonight to ask for your help or your support for election. That's nothing to do with that. I'm here tonight to tell you how I feel personally and how I feel about this law and where we're going. So when you get back to it, make those people accountable. Your judges are accountable. They run every 10 years for county court, family court, and 14 years when they're on the Supreme Court. And every time you look and you talk, these judges are the ones that are signing the pistol. The issuing officer in the county is the judge. And
It's like we're dominated by the downstate politicians. Everything that happens at the state level, everything that happens at the state level affects those of us that are upstate rural communities. And it's like the downstate values seem to be forced upon the upstate. The lack of. I mean, it's like if you live on top of yourself like they do downstate, that, taking away your rights is something that
Downstate has always versus upstate ever since I can remember. And it's not just this one, it's all the other bills and stuff that comes up. And nothing against the man personally, but Sheldon Silvers in the Assembly, all that covers an awful lot, and it makes it tough. And in the representative, in the Republican Party, in the Senate, I don't know where he is.
It's terrible.
When they get to politicians, that's why I'm saying to you, take them individually, make them stand up in front of you, and make them answer your questions. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jim and I go back a good many years. I'm not going to say how many years, but I remember the time when he asked me about becoming chief of a fire department, and I said, no matter what you do, Jim, you're going to do okay. And he's been the sheriff for how many years now? 41 years. 41 years. God love you.
Thank you, Jim. We go way back. We worked in the International Paper Company way back when I was a young fellow. Just got married, moved down to Greenfield, joined the fire company, and was going and running for office. He came and talked me into running for office. I don't know if that was a good thing or not. Yes, sir. You're right.
That's a long time ago, Jim.
Yes.
I just wanted to, the letter that the Saratoga County Deputy Sheriff Association wrote, I want to thank those guys. I don't know who's here.
Yeah.
The president's standing right in the back.
The letter is outstanding. This letter is outstanding. It shows a little more of a strong position on where probably most people in here stand. The letter that, I haven't had a lot of time to look at it, but the one that I guess your 52 of 58 sheriffs went along with, I find it to be a little bit weak. I haven't had time to look a little further through it, but I would like to see a much stronger position, particularly by our sheriff.
Well, you see, that's what happens when you belong to the New York State Sheriff's Association. There was 52 out of 58 sheriffs down there, and you have a little bit of everything, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and all. It took over 2 days arguing back and forth, even to get them to agree to that paper. And that's why I stood up and said, just like I'm telling you here, but when you get to that, you take the vote, and that's the best we could put together on that. So I have said to my fellow sheriffs, it's better than nothing, but it should be a little bit better, but at least we got something out of it. Thank you,
Sheriff, you know, you said you're a career man, 40-plus years as a sheriff. You took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of New York. If the governor asked you to go around to the citizens of Saratoga County and confiscates their weapons, would you do that, or would you resign your post?
I will not resign. I've never walked away from a fight in my life, and I don't intend to now. I would tell the governor, you put $38 million into the budget, have your troopers go do your job. I don't know how to say things, and sometimes I say it a little bit blunt. I mean exactly what I said. I owe everything that I have had in my career to you good people and to the people of this county. And I have to make a decision sometimes that some people are upset and cause me some problems. I've had primaries from my own people on the payroll that's run against me. That makes no difference. It's the people that count. I don't care how many opponents I have. I can only tell you what I'm going to do and how I do it and why I'm doing it. And if the other gentlemen, whoever's running it, can do it better and they get elected, God bless them, it's fine. But every day I get up, I don't preach religion, but I believe in it. I go to church every day. I see Jimmy a lot. And I promise the Lord to give me the strength, the courage, and the knowledge to do my job. And my job is to represent and keep this county safe. And that's what I do. And when I answer your questions, I'm telling you exactly the way I feel from my heart. I'm not here for any political reasons. And I could have retired a number of years ago, been retired, made more money being retired than it cost me to work.
Thank you, Sheriff.
I don't know. I know this isn't a New York State pistol permit class or anything. I don't understand why there's 2 permits in New York State. I have a New York State permit, I've had it for 37 years. It's a concealed carry, I can carry in 38 states. What I don't understand is, I can carry my permit concealed, loaded, in 39 states, but I can't carry it in New York City.
Right. And I've had myself, my old undersheriff, Ken Cooper, not Mike Woodcock, present undersheriff, Kenny retired you. We went to New York and we had to turn our weapons in while we were in New York City because New York City is a separate, altogether different. They held our weapons while we were there for the 4 days that we were there. It's what they do and what it's wrong, but there's nothing to do with it. To come back to your question is, another part of that is you said issuing. A lot of our weapons are outfitted in target practice. And in order to get a concealed weapon in the county, you have to give the judge some bona fide good reason. Excuse me, what's my mind?
Situation for you.
Okay, obviously. All right. That's up to the officer, the judge, the issuing officer of the county. And it's tough. Some counties are different than others. Some counties, they do it with the county clerks. Some do it with the local police department. In our county, we do it all through the sheriff's office with the exception of the judge. And I've had 5 different judges as officers of the court, pistol permits, and each and every one of them have different ideas. That's why I'm saying to you, when they run, you have to ask them. Talk to them. Yes.
Bob Scott, still doing that?
He's dead and gone.
Oh, is he?
Yes, Bob Scott died a good number of years ago, yes.
Sorry to hear that.
One more over here. Bob was a good fellow. He retired but passed away for 2 years. I'm sorry.
Not to the gun confiscation. I see the Sheriff's Association ended their statement saying that they're not going to confiscate guns. Now, last week, the New York State Police met with the New York State clerks in Albany, and they said they would confiscate guns. Now, if it comes down to that, you as the highest law in the land, will you step in and protect your county residents from the state police confiscating their guns? You have the power to do so.
I'm not going to get into a fight with the New York State Police. We need the New York State Police to work with us, locals, as well as we do it. And it defeats the whole purpose. And you don't want to have mutiny and an uprising. You want to work together. And the superintendent is appointed by the governor. And the superintendent is a real nice gentleman, but he has to answer to the boss. And right now, the governor has pushed this law down everybody's throat and got the legislation to pass it. And until we can get it appealed, changed, altered, whatever we can get done to it, the law is out there. And right now, the governor has instructed the superintendent, and the superintendent has sent his colonel, his sergeant from the Pistol Permit Bureau, and a person from DCJS out and around the different areas trying to show people how it's going. I have no idea, and I have asked them, and they haven't given me any idea, on how they're going to do all this. I really don't. And I don't think that you talk to the state police, they don't want to run out and confiscate anybody's weapon either. The New York State Police are just as human as we are, and there's some good people in the state police, and they got their job to do. They have to follow orders. But I don't think you're going to see all that confiscation of weapons that you might think you're going to get until things work out down the road. And we're watching it very closely. I don't intend to kick any doors in or go around confiscating weapons. I'm sorry, we got a question.
A little bit different take on this. We're all trying to figure out what's going to happen, and we don't even know what the details are, how it's all going to go down. What we do know, Dave knows, all the other instructors here that are shooting instructors know, is people walking up to us saying, I've never had a gun before, I want to get one for protection, what do I get? Well, the first thing we're going to say, of course, is lessons. But this governor has succeeded in surpassing Obama as the leading gun salesman in New York State. Now we have untold thousands of firearms going into the hands of unexperienced people. How can the Sheriff's Department work with us and maybe get some better firearm safety training out there into the public?
We have safety courses taught in our county now in 2 locations. We're trying to line up some more, and I think you're going to find volunteers that are going to come in and want to do these safety courses, and I'm in favor of that. I don't want to see anybody have a weapon in their hands that they don't know how to use. And we can get that. And there's a lot of rod and gun clubs that are very willing and able and will offer their services to help train people onto it. And right now in Schenectady, they're charging quite a little bit for their courses. In our counties, we've got a couple of guys that are teaching it, and they're only charging just the basic cost for the books and stuff that they need. So yes, we do need to have more training, but it still doesn't stop. People are running right now to buy weapons, and they're scared because they're not going to be able to get them. Right. And I don't blame those people one bit. And we're trying to move ahead. I'm trying to reshuffle people to handle all the amendments and the paperwork in my office now because we're getting buried.
They're so far out of it. One of the salesmen at a big box store told me he was explaining the firearm to the individual, and they said, okay, when I'm done with it, how do I turn it off?
Oh my goodness.
How can we work better together?
I'll do anything I can, and we're always open for suggestions. But you know, I got to say this, not because the man is standing here and I know it, but you know, I talk to our gun dealers. We have roughly around 15, 16 in the whole county. They won't sell you something unless they're really sure. You know, everybody thinks they're out to make a buck. They're not. They make money. That's how they make their living. But they're there to protect you. Ask them. Show them. Listen to them. They'll help you. Right?
Exactly. You're talking about the necessity for the quick passage. I think the governor's necessity for this law was that we, as gun dealers, couldn't sell AR-15s or that type of weapon after they discovered that there was going to be a law like that next day. So I think that's the argument about their necessity and why they rushed through this, so people wouldn't rush to the gun shop and buy more AR-15 style weapons.
That's not what he said in his message of necessity. He said...
Well, I heard that basically what I mentioned, though, and what his argument was.
Yeah, I heard that. I saw the clip.
Yeah. And he said, according to you, what?
Well, he said this law will immediately ban the ownership of all assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. It does not.
Well, that's untrue. And the same fact that just because I can't sell a gun to anyone who comes into my shop today or on the 15th of January, someone down the street could sell their own gun to anyone down the street without any background checks.
An estimated 1 million assault weapons out there now.
That could be changing hands as we speak.
Out there.
Yes.
The point is they're out there. It doesn't ban the ownership. No. I have one.
Yes.
I don't have to register it.
And you can sell it to the girl next to you right now in front of all of us without a background check.
So there was no emergency. The government cannot falsify or manufacture his emergency. That's what he did. It was a sham.
Yes, he did.
It was a fraud.
Yes, yes. I'm just stating his argument.
But also, he sent it down there, but the Assembly and the Senate had to sign off on it too.
Yeah, well.
Yep. Thanks, Sheriff.
Please send it to me, and I will make sure I'll accumulate it and send it to the sheriff or get responses, and I can get it out. Hopefully, if our sign-up sheet is still circulating around there, if anybody has it in the back, if you can just bring it up. I know most of you came out here tonight to see the sheriff, and I appreciate that. If you want to stick around, we got about another 10 more minutes of UCC stuff that we're going to handle. You know what? It's going to take a while to clean up. Any of the UCC stuff we can handle next month. There's nothing pressing. I just want to make it mention that, again, if you want to be part of our Second Amendment Committee for the UCC, to see Lisa. If you have any more questions for Bob Schultz, I don't know Bob. Walk off here. If you're interested